Welcome back, all, and today we have a fun-filled. What are we throwing it back to, Marcus? Tell them. Let's do it.
We are going to the year 2005, and we are going to talk about the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, we are. And Sean, this was your idea, and I want to know, your thoughts. Your idea for bringing this back, for throwing it back, and I want to know your initial thoughts when this movie starts rolling.
Yeah, so it was my idea. I did bring it up to you guys. And it was just, I had been following Loki, I've been watching, WandaVision, like all of the Disney Plus series, like back to back to back to back, and I was just like, wanting something a little bit different. And so I just looked at, the old stuff that they had. I'm not ready to dive into the Fox like X-Men yet. So I was like, okay, let me check out, Fantastic Four. Like I remembered it kind of being iffy, because as a kid I was a stickler for like this isn't how it is in the comics. They don't look right. And for whatever reason, I was like super judgmental of all these things that you're supposed to just have fun with. But yeah, so I decided to watch it. Started it off, and I was like, oh, this isn't as bad as as I remember. Just right off the bat, it opens up
With
what is it?
Victor's
Let me
freaking
see.
statue, man.
Yeah,
Reed,
yeah, with
Reed,
the super foreshadowing, dude.
yeah,
Like
man.
Victor's like literally like a metal statue
Yeah,
with the rivets, and I was like, dude, this is this makes sense. It's
It makes sense.
probably like as cheesy as like a lot of the Fox stuff was, like I would say comic book like people wise, like I feel like Fantastic Four is like second behind Spider-Man, of just like being known, and like their story's been retold so many times, and like everything. So I feel like, starting it off this way, it's like, okay, like everybody knows what's going to happen, but how does it get there? Like it changes it from like wondering like, oh, is he actually going to be this time, to like this is what it is, like, and then here we go, and you just kind of jump right into it. So I thought it was great foreshadowing.
yeah, I agree.
What do you guys think?
So in the beginning, I'm like, okay, we got Reed Richards looking at Victor Von Doom, and I was trying to remember to myself, I'm like, are they friends with Victor in the beginning? Is like, because I totally forgot. Like I went to this film and I was trying to remember certain pieces, and I remembered certain pieces, but the beginning was so iffy to me, and I didn't remember shit. And I'm like, okay, we flash forward. They're on a team. They're gonna go into space and go deal with this like solar flare that happens way too early. And I'm like, I get the Victor Von Doom statue. It was like, for me, I'm like, Victor Von Doom is a huge villain in the MCU, like larger than life, out there, um, with the Thanoses, with the Galactuses. Like Victor Von Doom is the shit when it comes to Marvel villains.
Yeah,
And I'm like, this guy is just starting out, and I know in the comics this happened too. Is just starting out as friends with Reed Richard. They're scientists trying to do whatever, and I'm just off the bat. I'm like, it tickled me the wrong way. I don't know. I don't know if you guys felt the same. I think Sean, you enjoyed it more, but like, this guy's already got a statue of himself, and he's not even, the Doctor Doom that we know is going to kick ass and be the powerful being in the MCU. And I guess it does fit the mold, but at the same time, like, this guy thinks his shit doesn't stink before it actually doesn't stink. So I don't know. Marcus, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, and what I got from it, because they were just saying that from the movie, what they're doing in the movie was that he, was super successful, very intelligent guy with tons of money, very charismatic, very powerful, runs a lot of things. He has all the money in the world to do whatever he wants, and so and I think Sue Storm said it. She said it in the movie. She's like, "You always thought you were a god." He
Yeah.
always pictured himself that way. So, I think they were just trying to play up the fact that he does not see himself as a regular person. He sees himself as somebody larger than life. And Dude, the first thing I thought though when you see him, because I mean I forgot that he played him, but Doctor Doom is, you know, the guy that plays him. His name is Julian McMahon,
Yeah.
and he was in Nip Tuck, and it's so funny that we watched this because I literally just sat down and watched the entire fucking show from start to finish. I think I finished it maybe months ago. I finished it, and I can't even believe that I sat there and watched that entire show because some of that show is just like so stupid and so like. Whatever. It was just like cheesy TV for me to watch, but like he's really good at playing a dick, and that's exactly what they wanted him to do. I think at the time that this came out, that show was really popular, so
It was.
they wanted to put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah.
They wanted him to put to play him, and so I was like, okay, you know, I've just seen it, and like I thought it could be an interesting choice, but you know, as it went on, he really has one layer. It's a very thin layer. And he plays it well. I mean, he's, you know, you don't get the sense that he's going to be the biggest MCU villain, you know, ever.
Yes.
But I mean, he's just basically all he is just a dick the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, his character arc is very flat. So, but you know, it hits it right over the head, like from the start. So.
Yeah, like you know what you're getting. Yeah, you know what you're getting from the get-go with this guy.
Yeah, for sure.
But one thing, you know, I don't know about you guys, but my favorite part or favorite part and favorite character of this film was my boy Chris Evans, man. Johnny Storm. The first time we see him, he's on a motorcycle making out with a chick. They're speeding down the highway, and I'm like, you know, he came from, what was it, American Pie or Eurotrip, wherever the hell it was, where he was just like in a whipped cream, like, you know, Speedo.
Not another teen movie.
Yeah, not another teen movie. That's what it was.
That's right.
And, you know, I'm like, I know Chris Evans nowadays as a Captain America who's great. Through this film, he was my favorite part. And I could be completely out of, like, you know, no one could agree with me. But Chris Evans, you can tell the potential for this man as a superhero. The writing, not so great. But his deliveries and what he did in this film was amazing. Like, my favorite part. And him being, you know, Johnny Storm, the, you know, Human Torch, the eccentric, you know, daredevil man.
Flashy
like,
guy.
Yes, like, making, like, I was like, he was, like, making out with this chick on the motorcycle while she was driving. I'm like, this, like, I don't remember this from when I watched it originally, but I'm like, this is, like, that Human Torch that I think of. Like, he hit this to the T. And like I said, if the writing was there, he would have been the perfect Human Torch. I'm glad he's our Captain America. Like, he is Cap for me. But he could have been a great Human Torch, too.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, I was going to say just real quick, like, he's another guy who plays, like, the douchey, like, asshole, but, like, flashy and funny guy. Like, he plays that, you know, that stereotype so well, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. He does that in other movies too. Like, I've seen him in other things. I mean, I've seen him in like romantic comedies, and he plays that role perfectly all the time.
Yeah.
And so, seeing him yesterday, it was like strange at first because, you know, Captain America is such a different character than Johnny Storm is, and so, you know, just their values and the way they hold themselves, and you know, the integrity that they have. They're just like they're two. It could not be more different from each other, right? And so I kept thinking about that at first, but you know, you're right. He's a super charismatic. It kind of ties into the next thing. Like the best thing I think about this movie was the casting for everything.
100%.
I think they
100% agree, dude.
Everybody really well. I mean, except for Doctor Doom. I don't think that was casted that well.
I agree.
But the Fantastic Four was casted really well. I believed everybody in their part. Ty, you said it. The writing is not there. It's not very good, but the people that they put there, they had their moments where you really believed it. Dude, I cannot remember Homeboy's name, but who plays Mr. Fantastic? I don't know his name.
It's Ioan Griffith. It looks crazy. It looks like Ian with an O, and then his last name looks like Griffood, but it's Ioan Griffith.
Yeah.
I had to watch a few interviews to see how he pronounced it. But yeah, dude, he knocked it out of the park. Like, for really what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And I hate to... Oh, go ahead, dude. My bad.
No, dude, keep going, because I was going to just start going down a different path.
Well, I was just going to add to that. I think this is what for me, it separates it from some of the other Fantastic Four movies that we've gotten. And like, and I went through the burden of watching the unreleased 1994 one just to see it, since we've seen the story so many times. But this one, I think the casting, even though the writing wasn't there, I think the casting allowed them to bounce off of each other.
Yeah.
And so I think, that really helped the film in basically telling 4 origin stories at the same exact time, 4 or 5 if you want to count Doctor Doom. But like, I think that, whoever did the casting was like spot on.
Yeah, and I can go off about like, dude, Chris Evans. Like, I have a bunch of quotes because I was rolling. Like, I was enjoying the cheesy one-liners that that I don't want to see in movies nowadays, but I appreciate from past films from like the early 2000s and the late 90s. Like, I was laughing my ass off. We had him saying, "I'm gonna need therapy" when they're on the bridge, and he's talking to the Invisible Girl. Like, I was rolling when he looks at Thing. He goes, "Where are your ears?"
Yeah, I thought that was great that they pointed out that oddity.
Yes, when he goes,
I actually saw the slit. I saw the slit on the side of. I don't know if you guys saw it, but I was watching it last night. As soon as he said it, because my eyes went right there as soon as he said it, and you can see a tiny little slit so he can hear.
Yep. And then there was
That's funny.
Every team needs a mascot when he was doing the interview to talk about Thing. And then, when they were talking about Mr. Fantastic, he goes, "I've always known him to be a little limp."
Yeah.
Because the girls were bringing up how he can extend parts of his bodies, and he's just like, "Yeah, I've known him to be a little limp."
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah,
like it was. But the thing is, Chris Evans and his deliveries were fantastic. It was great. Like, not even to say Fantastic Four, but they were really good, and I really enjoyed. Especially with him. He was first bringing out his powers, and he's snowboarding with some chick, and he goes all full fire and falls into the snow, and he's like, "You want to jump in?" And the next time you see him, he's in her snow jacket, jumping around, moving around, having a good time. Like, Chris Evans, man, props to you. You took this, this character and, the writing, what they gave you, and you elevated it. As much as it was,
100%.
corny, but I enjoyed his corniness because he was so passionate behind it because you knew he wanted to make a mark with this character. And the scenes they gave him, especially with him just wearing a snow jacket around him, and he excelled. Props to him, man. I can't get enough praise to Chris Evans because he did a hell of a job in this film.
So Ty, you beat me to the punch of one of my notes that I had written down here. It's in a little bit different context than what you just said,
Okay.
but so I mean, we kind of skipped past. Everybody got their powers, right? They were on the space station or his shuttle or whatever, and they all got stuck out there because Victor closed the shields on them, which total asshole move for doing.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's one thing, right? But so anyways, the cloud goes over them. They get their powers. Well, they don't have them yet, but they wake up, and that was actually one of the things. When Johnny was catching on fire. And then he went into the the snow thing, and it made that little makeshift hot tub or whatever. He didn't even think twice or blink about was this weird that I just caught on fire? Immediately went to have sex with this hot chick, and but didn't even blink at all.
No.
But which I mean, if it was any one of us, wouldn't we be like, "Holy shit, what the hell just happened?" What was that? And it just didn't even
phase
happen.
him. Nah, he was just let's get in here real quick.
Yeah, they didn't have time to address that, dude.
Well, I thought that was weird, a weird writing move. Why would you? I don't know how you think that would be okay to write in and be believable.
But I didn't hate it. It's just because the way Chris Evans goes about it, with his acting, I didn't hate it. I thought it was a funny Johnny Storm moment because he thinks he's larger than life, just like Victor does. He thinks that at the end of the day he wants to go with these chicks, and even though he just turned into a huge flaming dude, he's naked. He's just great opportunity to pull this chick in and have sex with her, and then proceed to wear her snow jacket around his waist to go talk to his friends. Like for me, I didn't hate that. And there's a lot of things in this film that was very corny and like non-believable. But for me, just because of Chris Evans, like the way he delivered these lines and the way he did it, I believed him.
Yeah, and I think honestly, when taking it back to any of these, like 2000s or mid 2000s or older, like you got to expect cheesiness.
Yeah.
And so like I honestly, like, as a broad note that I had for this whole thing, I felt like it was written like a sitcom. Like it was like all it was missing was a laugh track, like after every like one liner.
Yeah.
And like, so when he's like, want to jump in or whatever he said to her to get her into the hot tub, like, perfect laugh track moment. And then we wouldn't have even noticed it. We would have just, gone with the story. So
yeah, that's true.
And
that's true. Yeah.
But for me,
it's a lot of story to try and tell. I think the runtime was like an hour and like 45 minutes.
Yes.
So it's like, they had no time for any like real reaction.
Yeah, and the thing is, for me though, like for this film, it reminded me of older style comics. Like Kev, for my birthday, got me like the 80-year anniversary booklet for The Flash, right? And the first comic of The Flash, he was trying to impress this girl, and she's like, I'm not going to date you because you suck on the football team. Like, that's the plain reason why this girl did not want to date Wally West or Jay Garrick. I forget which one. But then he gets his speed, right? And then he's the best one on the team, and he's only doing it to impress this girl to date her. And I'm like, This is what I see with this film. Like, I see them taking the reins from older style comics and then putting it on the big screen. You got the corny, weird style. You're doing things to make other people happy, which, Johnny Storm, that's what he's doing. I think they tried to, empower Jessica Alba's character, Invisible Woman, a little bit, which I think was great. But they were doing it in such a weird ways.
Jessica Alba.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know you guys.
I know.
You guys are in relationships. I'm sorry, but I'm not. And I remembered why I had a huge crush on her.
Dude, in college, I had a poster of her from Deep Blue Sea on my freaking wall back in the day, man.
My goodness.
Yeah, she was great.
100,
it was great.
100%. So we could, I don't know if you guys started to talk about it yet, but like into one of the next scenes, the bridge scene.
Oh, dude.
100%. They just wrote that in so that she had a shot of her in her underwear.
Yes.
Like
totally.
Everybody knew what they were doing with that one. Like,
they do, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, whoever wrote that movie.
But can we talk about that scene real quick? Because
please, I have something to say about that. You start, Ty.
Same here.
We
all do.
It was so.
It was a big scene,
dude. It was so comical because you have Thing, contemplating life on the edge of this bridge. Then you have a man who's also contemplating life, who's about to jump off, and he literally like disregards life in general for everyone else, but decides to try and save this man and should have murdered probably 18 people. Somehow, this man in this Mack truck survives this brutal crash into Thing.
Yeah, that dude's gone for sure.
He would have been ejected. Even if he had a seatbelt on, this man would have been ejected and been on his way to Germany the way this impact happened. But he was just like, okay, chilling in this seat. Everything was fine. And I'm just thinking, how do you do that? Like, how is that believable? Like, all I think of is if you watch The Boys and you watch, I'm blanking on her name, but in the first scene of that series, she jumps down and crashes into the truck and they all start flying out and they're all in bad shape. This guy took this hit like he was an NFL linebacker and just shrugged off a hit or a shoulder charge from a running back. And I'm like, that is not believable, my friend. That car crash was insane, and he walked away with no scratches.
Dude, yeah, you're right, man. John, you can go first. Go ahead, man.
Oh, dude, yeah. I was just gonna say, so like that whole scene, I did like the Thing's one-liner when he's like, he looks at the guy, he's like, "You think you got it bad?" Like, I was waiting for the, I was like, okay, that's pretty fucking good. And then the whole, like, I'll try to keep it chronological, but So the accident happens, where the thing like stops the truck, and then like the rest of the team like sees that, oh, it's Ben. And so they hop out of their taxi, and they're like, Ben. They're like, oh, we can't get through. And so they have like, the Invisible Woman, dressed down. They're like, we can't get through, but you can. And so she gets, invisible. She takes off her clothes, and then in the very next scene, you can see off in the little corner, you see Chris Evans and what's his name? Yohan Griffith, Mr. Fantastic. You see them just little like going around the crowd. It's like, bro, you just said you can't get through, and then half a second later you guys are sneaking around the edge. Like, come on, dude. And then the other major thing about that is like that entire bridge scene was caused by like all of them. Yes. So like it's the moment that like like, oh, they come together as heroes, but it's like you guys caused everything that happened. You guys caused it. Dude, and then for me that was also probably one of the most the saddest moments when Ben Grimm's his wife comes to the scene where he just overcame like life or death contemplating, and then like he saved a guy, then he saved another guy in the truck, and then like the cops were trying to shoot him and label him as a bad guy, and then everybody labeled him, no, you're a hero, and he's like he's probably like over the moon with like, oh yeah, like this is my thing. And then she comes and she doesn't just break up with him. She takes off her ring. She doesn't chuck her ring at him. She puts her ring on the ground. And I'm like, dude, the thing, like, thankfully they included it in the movie, but the thing has 3 fat fingers. Yeah. Like, he has like 3 fingers and a thumb. So like trying to pick up off asphalt like a ring, I'm like, bro, like he would have been there for hours. Yeah, it's super fucked up.
Dude,
it's like,
but you know what made me like, dude,
such a roller coaster.
When I watched that, when when she first saw him, I was like, what a bitch. I'm like, you're either engaged or married, and you can't even deal with him looking a little different. Like, that is shallow shit.
I wouldn't say a little different.
Okay, but say my
it got a little rocky.
But the thing is, say Jess turned into a stone woman, right? I wouldn't be scared of her and run away. I'd be like, okay, what happened? Let's get through this. Can we change this? If not, we'll work through this. It's like my mindset for that is like, okay, how do I support you? But that girl was just like, fuck this, I'm done. You're scary. See you later, and ran the hell away.
You're the same person. You sound different, or you sound the same, but you look different.
Yes.
It's like, oh, peace.
Yeah.
Do you remember a little bit earlier in the movie? Reed was telling Ben, he was like, hey, or what did he say? They were talking about how when you go through something like this, you really see who the people close to you are and who you love the most.
True.
And all that.
Yeah.
And he was telling him, yeah, you and your wife are perfect or whatever. And then he was like, no, I wasn't talking about you. But I mean, Reed thought that they were perfect, and then obviously they were not perfect. No. So yeah, I mean, that was a bit of I guess foreshadowing, right? Because he considered them to be perfect, and they definitely were not.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna backtrack just a little bit because I still have a little bit of thoughts to say about the bridge scene.
Oh, of course.
Dude, so I guess I feel like they all started using their powers on the bridge for the first time in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
And they just got their powers that day. And they didn't hiccup, they didn't screw up their powers, they didn't struggle. They all saved the day. And it was so easy for them to do it. And I feel like in a lot of superhero movies we see, when somebody first gets their powers, they struggle with something, they make a mistake, then it makes you feel like, oh, I feel for these guys because they don't know what they're doing yet, and we'll learn with them along the way, and we'll grow with them. but like they showed up to the bridge, they saved the day. It was super easy, and they were all of a sudden the Fantastic Four. I feel like that happened in like a matter of minutes, and like everybody was just accepting of them right away. It felt,
Dude, and
felt super
the crowd
rushed.
named them. The crowd was
Yeah.
like, "They're the Fantastic Four," and I'm like, "Come on, don't
Yeah.
do that to me."
in an event that they caused, like they caused this disaster, and then they made it okay. And now, like, they all know how to do their own thing. It's like,
Yeah, and now they're the team, and it's that was a little, I don't know. I was like, come on, guys, it was just a little bit much. But yeah, I mean, but I also do want to go back to Ben too, because you guys are right. Like, I felt like he got screwed he got the short end of the stick with them, which sucks because he was the one that was outside when that cloud came over them. So obviously he looks like that, but yeah, he comes back home and he looks like that, and then you have to deal with that shit. That's probably wild in itself. And then you try to go talk to your wife, and she doesn't want to talk to you anymore. She just can't stand the sight of you. Everybody's afraid of you when they're looking at you when you're walking down the street. Yeah, then Sean, like you said, he saves the day. So he has like a little bit of hope that it can, he was on that bridge contemplating his life because he didn't know his fucking wife didn't love him anymore, and he loved his wife more than anything.
Yeah.
And he didn't even know what to do. So then, finally, you're right. He saves the day, and then she comes and she breaks it off for good. Didn't even say a word, just dropped it on the floor.
Yeah.
And like, that was just cruel, man. That's fucked up. Like I totally felt for him. I was really sad for him.
Dude, the smallest thing you could do is hand him the ring,
Right?
Like,
Yeah.
But no, you had to put it on the ground.
And he's
and
like,
watch him struggle to fucking pick it up. Dude.
I'm surprised she didn't stay behind and watch.
she probably did. She was probably back there watching, like, yeah, fuck this dude.
Who knows, dude? Yeah.
Good
But-
God, man.
Holy shit.
I want to get
man.
your opinions on this because this is something that irked me a little bit. I felt like it was a little cheat. Their suits being able to form fit with them and their style based off the solar flare. That, like, okay, no suit.
Did you not like that?
No suit is gonna change. No fabric's gonna change because of a solar flare. If anything, it'll probably burn up. It's not gonna get DNA, changing aspects to it where it can flex out with Mr. Fantastic, or go invisible with Invisible Girl, or be able to heat up with the Human Torch. I'm like, what? You can't just make it? Like, they're all brilliant scientists. You can't just make these suits? No, they got altered with the solar flare up in space. I'm like, come on. That was another thing to me that was, like, so unbelievable. It's so stupid. Like, to me, it's, it's the suit, like, whatever. Yeah. But for me, like, I'm like, come on. You could have made these suits. You guys have these powers. Make the suits to, go with your powers. Not say, oh, this solar flare attached to your suits, and now they're, like, lifelike.
Yeah, I guess we could attribute that to lazy writing. It was just really easy to be able to say that, and nobody has to think twice about it. Really quick explanation, and everybody just moves on.
You just accept it. Yeah,
you just accept it, which is probably what they were doing. And like, I accepted it. I don't know. I mean, I do agree with you, Ty. I think that, like, there's a lot of things that they could have spent more time on, but it could have been done in a better way for sure.
Yeah. But
I didn't hate it because I just was like, okay, well, I mean, it makes sense to me. I mean, if you're out there, like, we're not going to turn into rock while we're out there, So
yeah,
I mean, it's the whole idea behind them in the first place is like unbelievable. So I could believe that little extra. I could believe that too.
Yeah.
Actually, it's kind of clever, but I mean, if they had some more time to flesh out, like doing like revisions of their suits or something, like maybe the first round of suits, Johnny's thing it burns up like halfway or burns up in his crotch and you can see his dick hanging out or something, like for the first round, and then it doesn't work out. So they have to spend more time in the lab trying to figure it out. Like, stuff like that. Like that could have been done instead of it just like, oh, the suits. Yeah. Like, oh God, like we were wearing them out there. What were we thinking? We should just wear them now. I actually did like the way they look though.
They do. Yeah.
The look of them was cool. It was very comic accurate, but also like, more modern looking. It's not modern now because that was like almost 20 years ago, but yeah, I like the look of them. The look of them was cool.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm completely on board with you, Marcus. Like, the thing with these, with superhero films in general, it's like, where do you draw the line of like real and like not real? Like, it's like, okay, we believe, people can get powers from a solar flare, but then the solar flare like burns up like costume. And like, I, rewatching this movie, when the suits are first introduced, it's like, Johnny even makes, I think it's Human Torch makes the comment, oh, so it keeps you cool when you heat up, and then it keeps you warm when you're super cool, or whatever. Like it, and then I think Sue Storm said it adapts to your body.
Yeah.
So
Meanwhile,
like,
they're
okay.
showing her jugs that are just hanging out.
Yeah, and they made sure to have a half zipper right there.
But
for sure.
But what else did they say about the suits when they first got them? They said, I think it was Johnny Storm. He said it's fantastic, and I'm like,
yeah,
yeah.
That was the first I was watching, and I actually counted the Fantastics in the movie. But yeah, that was the first time I think they dropped the Fantastic.
It was.
Did you really? How many times did they say it? How many times did they say it?
So, how many times did it feel like? Let me ask you guys that.
It didn't feel like that many.
No, so I didn't feel like it was too much, but it was. I would say it was between like 8 and 10 times they said fantastic in the film.
I will go with. Did you say he got it?
No. I was gonna say go give a guess. Yeah.
Let's go 14.
Dude, it's 9 or 10.
Yeah.
Depending on how you look at it. Because one of them was dropped in like a news ticker.
Yep.
But yeah, dude, 10. Yeah, so I would count it as like 10 times, and like to me, honestly, it felt like I was like, it felt like every other minute somebody was saying, "Oh, fantastic! Oh, that's fantastic!" Like,
yeah.
Oh my gosh, dude. But that's just the different threshold we have. You know. I should have kept those goggles on of like watching out for the cheese and just accepting it.
But if you think about like those films in the early 2000s and the late 90s, that like the superhero ones, they were more cheesy. Like that's what they did. They wanted to
100%.
They wanted to lay the cheese on because that's what they thought people wanted. That's what comics did. Comic books can be very
100%.
cheesy with their one-liners. So they weren't far off from what they were, the material they were running off of. So, you can't hate them for that. And
100%.
Especially over time, we've seen, especially Marvel and even DC, excel without the cheesiness because we want the compelling, gritty stories and even the fun-filled stories because that's what we can relate to. And yes, cheesiness did work back then, but like I've said to you guys before we start film, like we're spoiled now, and what we want is the good stuff, no cheesiness, the storylines and the arcs that we can really relate to. But back then, you can't knock them because they were literally going off source material. Because that's what even sometimes some comics nowadays have that cheesy one-liners going on, and it works. Like I said, with Human Torch, with Chris Evans, like I loved his one-liners. I was laughing my ass off. I thought they were brilliant. In the end, when he says he's not going to say anything about the thing, and then I forget what he said. But he made a
wide load.
It's a wide load, and he, she like that was, I loved it. Like that was funny. It was cheesy, but it was funny. It was just like if you have the actors and the actresses who can deliver these cheesy lines in a way it's enjoyable, then it works, And I liked it. The cheesiness. Some people it didn't work with, but others like Chris Evans and the Human Storm, like that was fantastic. And fantastic.
Yeah, dude, you're right though. And you also brought up a good point before, like being spoiled now. I think, and here's the biggest thing with me for this movie, right? I'm gonna say this is like my last huge point for it was that to piggyback off of you talking about about us being spoiled. What Marvel has done really well now, and what they have been doing well, is giving us a character and really giving us some emotional depth with that character. Having them struggle with something, having us take the journey with them, having us be sad with them, and then them overcoming, their struggles that they have, and until they become the hero that we know them to be and we expect them to be. In this movie, and like you said, Ty, that's not what they were about back then. which is what Marvel has done so well since then. But back then, yeah, they were going for more quips, more quirky humor, more cheesiness, and this movie didn't have any emotional depth at all, like at all. There was
No.
zero, except
Yeah.
except for the struggle of Ben being like
Yes.
changing and like and his wife and all that. That's the part that like I mean I didn't feel good about it, but I enjoyed that because like I was able to connect with him in a way. You know, I cared about him. It's something that happened to him. I'm like, oh dude, you know, like I would care about him. But the rest of the team, like nothing bad happened to them at
No.
all. And they just it was
Yeah.
kind of and then Sean, to your point, it was like you said, it was like a sitcom. It was just like it was very quick, like the pacing was really fast. We just went from one funny scene to the next funny scene to like an action scene to the next funny scene to the next funny scene, and then all of a sudden the movie's over.
Yeah.
So like I didn't really give a shit if anything bad happened to them because I didn't care about any of that stuff. And that was like the one thing where I just didn't like, you know, they could have done it a lot better. But that wasn't their thing back then, so you know, it's just I can't fault them for that, but yeah, I would have loved it more.
Yeah, they didn't need to, and yeah, I think beyond, you know, Ben, I think the other one where they had all the elements to put in like a proper character arc and make you really care about somebody was actually with Doom.
Yes.
But they rushed it way too much because, you know, supposedly at the beginning of the movie, he's at the height of everything. Like, you know, his business is killing it. He's got a fucking statue, like a 20-foot tall statue. You know, he's got all the money in the world. He's got like the hottest girl. He's about to propose to her, dude. You know, he's gonna be on. He's gonna try and save the company and be on, you know, Larry King and like all this shit, and then it falls apart like one by one, and it even falls apart, you know, all the way to from beginning to end because the ending scene. Sorry to jump ahead a little bit, but the ending scene is Reed proposes to Sue Storm with a gasket from the space station. Yeah. Who built the space station, dude? It was Doom's shit. Yeah. So that's Doom's ring, Doom's gasket you're putting on his ex-fiance, bro.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like all the elements were there to like, you know, give Doom like real reason for you to care about him. Yeah. And real reason to understand why he's going ape shit. And it's like they just kept it lighthearted. They just kept it, you know, right in the middle, emotional. But they didn't have to. To be 100% honest, they didn't have to back in those days. There was no bar for superhero movies.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is too, like, you know, next week we're gonna be talking about, we're gonna throw him back to Spider-Man. And one thing just to jump ahead, like one thing I really enjoyed about that first film was Norman Osborn's arc, because he went through literally the same thing that Doctor Doom did in this film, but they made you feel for him. You know, the successful guy who, you know, was getting pressured by the military. They're like, you know, if you don't get this done in 2 weeks, we're pulling all your funding and your company's going to go to shit. Like, they made you feel for this man. And for Doctor Doom and Fantastic Four, they didn't make you feel for him. You know, you're just like, he's an asshole. Like, whatever. Yeah. He's still an asshole. Keep being an asshole, and then that's it. You know, and Marcus, you said it best. Like,
turn into metal, be an asshole.
Yeah, and the thing, Marcus, you said it the best though. Like with Thing, like I felt for him. Like you know, all the emotional stuff you felt through him, and you know, if they would have fleshed that out more, this probably could have been a perfect film. You know, if you would have fleshed out that emotional side to each of these characters, which you could have. And I know it's tough because you're fleshing out 5 characters. You know, most films you're focusing on 1, maybe 2, the hero and the villain. But this time you have 5 people who you're trying, you know, to make this story about, and I get that's difficult. But if you
I bet the director, man, was like really hammering for that in their talks, and you know, like, hey, I need some more time to be able to do this story the right way, because you know, if we're gonna cut all this shit out, they're not gonna care about these people. And you know, the studio just like, no, just put it out. You know, let's do it. You know, make this movie. You know, we got to make it within 2 hours and all that stuff. Like Johnny, you know, if you were to give Johnny, like maybe he was really insecure about himself as a kid, which is why he is the way he is now, trying to be over the top and trying to be like the cool person. And, you know, maybe some of those insecurities like come up from time to time or something, but like, no, it wasn't that way. He was just like, we only see the part of it like at the end when he's just an ass and kind of like a douchey ass the whole time. But you know, maybe you would feel for him more that way, or understand where he was coming from by acting that way. Maybe exploring more of Reed's and Sue's relationship a little bit more. They tried to for them, but like those kinds of things. I don't know, but we didn't, like you said, there's not enough time to explore all that stuff in one movie. So it's kind of impossible unless you do a standard cut, like 4-hour thing. Because I mean, yeah, you just need the time to do that. But and it wasn't that kind of movie, but just to care about people, you kind of need those extra. You need the extra time for them.
And just real quick, just to touch on it while we're there, because you said you would think the director would want all that. Did you guys do any homework on the director?
No.
So his
No.
other biggest movie is Barbershop.
No way. Barbershop.
So yeah, so I'm like, that makes sense with the sitcom aspect.
Yes.
It's just fucking jokes after jokes after jokes, dude. And yeah, he's interesting, dude. He was in the '80s. He was actually part of Ice-T's rap group called Rhyme Syndicate, who tried to bring peace between East Coast and West Coast rappers
I never
in the
knew
late
that.
'80s, dude.
Yeah,
So,
I heard of that. I didn't know he was part of that though.
yeah, so he was part of Rhyme Syndicate, and then he goes on to direct Barbershop, and I think a few of the other barbershops. He did direct, to his to his positive, like he did direct the second Fantastic Four, which is also like a really good movie for that time period. But I'm just like, dude, that's why it feels like a sitcom. Like,
Yeah.
it's everything's still the same, as like the balance of comedy was very much more on the side of comedy versus like drama or anything else.
Yeah.
I want to talk about something that I really enjoyed in the film, and I felt like it was like straight from the comics, which was really cool. Is the ending fight scene, and also when Ben was having a problem with Sue and Reed, and he was getting all mad because Victor had put in his head that Reed wasn't putting the time in to fix him, and him using his abilities to wrap himself around Thing. And I'm like, this is like straight from the comics. And then the fight at the
100%.
end where you had, Johnny going Nova around Doctor Doom. Then you had the Invisible Woman, containing it. Like, that was cool. Like, that to me was like, yes, this is what the Fantastic Four would do as a team. Do their, put their, their attributes to their best abilities and form the team that they need to be. And that scene, especially for the technology they had back then, I thought was really cool. I think they excelled in that final fight scene very well. Doctor Doom didn't have, much fight back to them, but at the same time, I didn't care about that because the way they acted as a team and they used their powers to work off of each other, I thought was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it was right. And I'll put the note out there that the CGI for 2005 was actually pretty good for like watching it yesterday. Like, yeah, it wasn't bad.
No,
it was not bad. It wasn't bad. So that's a positive too. Did I wish that they made Doctor Doom a little bit more strong?
Yes.
More formidable against them, because he really is. He's beaten them a bunch of times before. So do I wish he wasn't so easily defeated? Yes, but you're right, Ty. Like, the way that they came together was really good. Everybody had a part to play.
Yeah.
Like you said, Johnny with the supernova thing. Sue was containing it. Mr. Fantastic. He was smart. He already knew what to do. He said, "What happens to metal when it gets really hot?" And then he had Thing, kick the fire hydrant, and then direct the water to it, and then turn him into a statue, which is what he was in the beginning of the movie.
Full circle,
from start to end, became full circle there, which is kind of nice. So that was cool, but yeah, the ending was cool.
Yeah, I thought it was neat to have them each have their own parts with their abilities and to work so well together, because I don't think many films do that nowadays, especially when you don't really have big team ups like that. Even if you look at the X-Men back in the day, like, you didn't have people like using their powers together. They used their powers, but not in a way to combine and beat up a villain. And in this way, they had their strengths and they used them together, especially with Reed using his smarts to conduct the whole, the beatdown for Doctor Doom. And yes, I agree, Marcus. Like, for Doctor Doom, he needs to be more formidable. formidable because he is one of the top villains in the MCU. Hands down, anywhere else you look at him, he's going to give anyone, any hero, a problem. And I guess the way around it is he's new too. He's new with his powers. But just to like give a good positive, I really just enjoyed seeing the teamwork aspect with their powers to take down the big bad in this film.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, and I just to throw into those points, I actually liked Doom's fighting in this because he's like, oh, he like, to play into your thing, like he is new at it, so he's like, I'm gonna take him down one at a time. And I actually thought that was a nice touch. One of Doom's powers is control of technology. Like not a lot of people like have that specific like technology technosis, I think they might call it.
Yeah.
But like you saw him like out of nowhere, he's able to turn his TVs in his security room to show like the Baxter Building security TVs.
Yeah.
And so like the way he took them down one by one, the thing, it's like, okay, he's rough and tumble on the outside. How do you get to him? And it's through a mental game.
Yep.
And then, Reed Richards, he's able to stretch, so you freeze rubber. And then like he tried to go after him one by one because he knew he couldn't take them on all four. So I was like, okay, that's pretty sick. And then the heat-seeking missile for the Human Torch, that whole scene was a nice little touch.
I agree. Yeah.
To your guys' point, the 2005 CGI was pretty good. And so like I like that. And then like you said at the end, how they came together and like used their powers. I enjoyed the cheesy callback when he's like, "What happens to metal when you cool it?"
Uh-huh.
And I really like those scenes. And then to your point too about it being from the comics, I thought one of the biggest, coolest things that we haven't seen is to take it back a little bit to the X Games scene with Human Torch.
Yeah.
Human Torch, gets too cooped up and like he bounces to go to the X Games. Super appropriate for mid 2000s. Like, let's throw an X Games and motocross. Like, it'll go well with the snowboarding.
Yeah,
like, this guy's extreme. But the scene right after X Games where the thing crumples his Porsche into a ball, I'm like, dude, like, that's so sick. Like, you see that in the comics. You see, like, these big heavy metal objects become like little balls, like in different aspects. And so I thought that was a nice touch, and just the cheesy little security noise when he goes, like, dude. So I thought the fight scenes were good.
Yes.
Even the heavy product placements, like Human Torch was fighting Ben Grimm. I think after the X Games scene, Ben Grimm's like, "Oh, you want to fly?" And he tosses him into a Burger King like advertisement. Yeah. And of course, the Human Torch torches the burger behind him just a little bit, so it's flame broiled. So I'm like, dude,
that's perfect.
Yeah, the little cheesy product placements, but the fighting was good. And yeah, to your guys' point, how they came together at the end, and Doom wasn't. It made sense to me that Doom wasn't experienced enough to take them all on at the same time, and that shows us thinking before to try to take them one at a time. So I enjoyed that. I thought it was a smart move.
That's a good point, Sean. I didn't even think about it in that way. Yeah, but like everything you're saying is making sense. If you didn't think you could, because they would seem very intimidating to try and take them all on at once. Even though, but his confidence is like obviously next world, next universe. So
yeah,
I mean, he probably thought he was cocky enough.
That's true.
But
that's true.
Smart idea was one at a time. He actually thought that he succeeded in taking two out of four. So I'm sure that's why he was out in the open and all that. But I mean, shooting forward in the future, he has dealt with them many times before on his own, and he's.
I actually thought it laid the groundwork. Sorry to jump in, but I thought it laid the groundwork for him to have his patented Doom bots. Like, oh, he would think like next time, like, oh, I need 4 or 5 of me to fight 4 or 5 of them. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought that was
100%.
smart, but they never paid off on that. But who
No.
knows?
All right,
Yeah,
so final ratings out of 5. What would you guys rate this film? Sean, you first.
Wait, are we rating it now as a 2005 movie
Now,
or
no, now.
How does it stack up to now?
To now, today.
oh to now?
Yes.
Oh, dude.
In terms of
it's gonna
think about rewatchability. Think about like impact on you. Think about I mean, I guess nostalgia has a factor
Yeah,
into it
nostalgia
too.
does have a factor.
Nostalgia has a factor, but in overall, just like good story. Did you have fun? That kind of thing.
Yeah, with these movies, you gotta have fun. You can't go looking for the same thing that Marvel and DC are doing now. I would probably put it. Oh God, dude! I think nostalgia takes it to a 3.
Okay.
But I think if nostalgia wasn't there, it would be like a 2.5. Like, because it wasn't memorable. Like, nothing really happened.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say, dude. Oh my god.
See, I would give it a 2.5. That was my rating of the 5.
Yeah.
You know, Chris Evans made it for me. The fight scenes that I thought was really cool, the team ups I thought was awesome. You know, the writing was not there for me at all. But, you know, I think the cast did as best as they could with what they were given.
Yeah.
I think if we had Kevin Feige take the lead and have the same actors and actresses with his vision, I think it'd be, more of a 3.5, 4. But with what we got, I would say 2.5.
Yeah.
Well, we are gonna get Kevin Feige giving us a whole new version of them pretty soon, so
God.
that's gonna be.
And I just hope he slows it down and takes his time.
Yes.
Dude.
You know he will. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think he hasn't given us anything that's in a piece of shit. In the whole 15, 16 years, going on 17 that they've been doing this. Yeah.
He did take a decade to put together a team. And like he's
look at Sean
he's
throwing
got
the
two-
shade down.
I'm just saying, dude. Like,
Sure.
I don't think he's had this challenge yet of where it's like, these two big teams, X-Men and Fantastic Four. Like, Fantastic Four is a good warm up for X-Men because X-Men's
So big.
so broad,
Huge,
dude.
yeah.
There's so many people in X-Men.
Yeah.
It's like Wu-Tang, but dude.
Yeah,
Like,
you can't do solo movies for each one of the Fantastic Four members. They're coming in as a one piece.
It happened at the same time. I would almost prefer it be a Disney Plus, dude. Like,
True.
Give
I
us-
agree. No, I
give
agree
us
with that.
10 to 12 episodes that are an hour long and just walk us through the first
Yes.
initial introduction, dude.
I completely agree with that, my
That's
man.
a great idea, man.
Because
that's a great idea.
especially when you have that many characters and you want them to be influential, it's hard to do that in a 2 to 3 hour film, especially because Marvel's trying to keep that that time frame because they don't want people to go too long. And you have this platform now with Disney Plus that doesn't matter if you want to have a 6 episode, 10 episode, 18 episode season. You can, because you don't have a time frame with Disney Plus. And I think, Sean, you hit it on the head. Like, make Fantastic Four a Disney Plus series before you start making them a film, because then you can actually take the time to make us care about each person in that group.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, that's a great idea, man. That's fantastic.
You had to throw it in there.
I'm gonna give it a 2.
Okay.
I'm gonna give it a 2, and just not that I didn't enjoy it. I did enjoy it. I laughed. I thought it was. I did enjoy the humor because it was light and it was fun.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of. I love the when he had the little prototype thing, and it was like it's clobbering time.
Dude,
And
that
then,
was awesome.
Thing,
That was
thing
so
was pissed, and thing destroyed it, and then.
That
Once
says
he
it.
went to go beat Dr. Doom, and he says it, and like when he said it,
Yeah.
I was like, "Cool!" He said it. So like that was cool. There were things that I did enjoy about it. There was a lot of things that I didn't make sense for me. I didn't emotionally connect with it. Rewatchability. Am I going to watch it again? Am I going to be excited to watch it again? Probably not. I'll put it again I'll put it on again in like 10 years or something. And
Will I
just
show
to
my
watch it
children
again.
in the future? Yes.
That's the thing. You read my mind
Yeah.
because I was about to say this is a perfect children's movie.
Yes.
Like, because they don't have to think too hard.
100%.
It's just like if we watched this when we were kids. I mean, not that we weren't kids in 2005, but you know what I mean. Like younger than that. If you're younger than that.
I was in
showed them
high
this
school.
movie, they would have loved it. They would have loved it because it's just all like funny and positive
100%.
and uplifting,
Yeah.
and action, and you don't really have to think about anything like that. So I would show them to kids, and I feel like that would be a really good movie for them. But being the age we are now, I need a little bit more from my characters, and I didn't get that from them. And
just
so, but two is where I'm going.
Cool.
Just to touch on that. So, your guys' review of the Power Rangers movie. That Power Rangers movie came out 10 years before this movie.
Yeah.
So it's like so if you were that Power Rangers age, like this would have hit a home run.
1,000%. Yes.
Yeah.
1,000%, my man.
Absolutely, dude.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the clobbering time thing because I think that's the best way it's been introduced so far.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. Any one liner in any movie, I think like because I was like I wasn't like, oh, that was cheesy that they brought it in. It was like I felt like it really. I was like, oh shit, he said it, and like it felt really good. It was cool.
Yeah.
I watched it last night, so it's still fresh in my mind, and I remember like being like, I'm looking at my phone, and then I looked up and he said it, and I was like, oh, he said it.
and the way that Chris Evans that toy, and he said, oh, the marketing guy thought of that, and like presented it as a prototype toy. I'm like, dude, that's there's a few documentaries on like just shit in the 90s, and a lot of things were made just to be toys. So they like I forget if it was Transformers, but one of the major cartoons was just made to sell toys. Right. Everything else was secondary. So I'm like, bro, like like Clobbering Time was just to sell something.
Yeah.
So the fact that Chris Evans in the movie brought it up as the marketing guy thought of this, I'm like, bro, like that's hysterical. The best way, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
in the newer one, it's horrible, dude, the way they bring it up.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
I haven't seen it, so I don't even know. But
well, that'll be your homework assignment, Ty. But
yeah, it's on Disney Plus, so I'm gonna go watch it, just to see. But for those listening and those watching, give us your thoughts on Fantastic Four from 2005. Did you enjoy it? Was it nostalgic? Sorry. And is it something you would rewatch? Give us your thoughts. You've heard ours. Now we want to hear yours. Marcus and Sean, as always, it's a pleasure.
Pleasure, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers, y'all.